Right. We're just waiting for Parliament to start up. Mark Carney is on his way back from Alberta, so he will not be at question period today. Likely he'll be at question period tomorrow, and that'll be his first time this week, obviously, because he's been in Alberta all week. And that'll probably be it. Fridays are super slow in the House, but this Friday, I usually don't stream Fridays. We will stream a bit on Friday since it's the last day of Parliament before they take a break for 3 months. So here we go. We're starting up. I believe they're going to sing the anthem first.
There a change. It's the member for Fredericton. That's what I thought. So the honourable member for Argenteuil-la-Petite-Nation will lead us in our national anthem. Thank you.
So while they're singing the anthem, let's see if there's anything we can watch for a sec while I get things started up. Nothing really. I know they're going to be reading Bill C2 later, and there's a lot of poison pills in Bill C2. I'd like to kind of see the debate on that, but at the same time, there's a couple committees going on, and oddly enough, yesterday's committee, the transport committee, the one we watched a little bit there, was supposed to have Freeland show up. They tried to call the minister as a witness, and Freeland said no and didn't show up. So I believe they're trying to get her back today, but the notice of meeting doesn't show any witnesses. It says still to be determined. The meeting's in like an hour and a half. Change the word back to the original, I know.
Let the doors be opened, que l'on ouvre les portes. It is my duty to inform the House that a vacancy has occurred in the representation. Mr. Couric, member for the electoral district of Battle River Crowfoot, by resignation effective June 17, 2025. Pursuant to paragraph 25(1)(b) of the Parliament of Canada Act, I have addressed a warrant to the Chief Electoral Officer for the issue of a writ for the election of a member to fill this vacancy.
Okay, sweet. By-election is that's official. That was Damien Couric's spot.
No. No, sorry. So I didn't want to. Sorry, got ahead of myself. Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. The honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honour the life of Munakwinmit, Stephen Charlson, a proud member of the Heshkwit Nation and the King of Kinquashtakamouth. Stephen was a lifelong fisher, learning traditional fishing and navigational skills from his father and brothers, and living his entire life on the lands and waters around Heshkwit Harbour, except for the painful years he spent in residential schools and the Indian boarding home program. He was immensely proud of the recognition by the courts of Heshkwit fishing rights through the Takwayak fishery. He was both a teacher and a learner, studying the Nuu-chah-nulth language in his final years. Throughout his life, he shared his teachings and touched the lives of hundreds of people from all walks of life, establishing the Hooksum Outdoor School in 2000, specializing in outdoor and environmental education. Stephen recently passed to the other side and leaves behind his loving wife, Karen, 6 children, 12 grandchildren, and a legacy of strength, culture, and connecting to home. May he rest in peace, and may we honor his memory with action and respect.
The honourable member for Kanata.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to congratulate the outstanding class of 2025 from my riding of Kanata. To the students of A.Y. Jackson, Earl of March, West Carleton, Holy Trinity, All Saints, Maurice-Lapointe, Bell High School, and Franco West, this is a moment to be proud of. You've worked hard, shown resilience, and hopefully had some fun along the way. Now you step into the world with the knowledge and the opportunity to make a real difference. To the teachers and staff, thank you for your dedication. And to your families, your support helped make this day possible. To every graduate, celebrate, take pride in all you've accomplished, and move forward with confidence. The world is ready for you to make your mark. Congratulations to the class of 2025.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
We all remember that one teacher that made a lasting impact on us, the one who believed in us before we believed in ourselves, the one that would stay up late to push us further and made us feel worth every minute of their time. At Sacred Heart Catholic High School in Newmarket, I saw that spirit alive. First, during the election, when teachers organize a candidates' debates so that the students can moderate the discussion and challenge ideas, they didn't just teach civics, they brought it to life for their students. Then again, when students participated in the Newmarket Night Market, proudly showcasing their artwork, including one powerful piece celebrating strength, empowerment, and the women who shape us. That painting now hangs in my office, and I would like to invite everyone to stop by to see it and enjoy a cup of tea. To the teachers at Sacred Heart and to every educator who goes that extra mile, thank you.
The Honourable for Pierre Poilievre.
Mr. Speaker, this Friday is World Refugee Day. The day highlights the plight and dreams of those seeking refuge because of threats to their lives. The destin des réfugiés nous...
The plight of refugees concerns us all.
Honestly adopted M62, my motion to welcome 10,000 vulnerable Uyghur to Canada. This was a historic vote. It was a vote of parliamentary solidarity. Since then, I've been working to ensure our government honours the will of this House on that day. Refugees, once settled in Canada, make countless economic and social contributions to our country, making Canada better off. Our government has historically been, and must continue to be, a leader in refugee resettlement. It's our duty towards the most vulnerable. La Journée Mondiale...
World Refugee Day is a reminder to understand these challenges.
World
and it's also a
Refugee
time
Day.
to appreciate the wealth we have in Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
Mr. Speaker, we all remember fond childhood experiences. For me, I grew up going to Hillcrest Mall in Richmond Hill with my family. It's a place where, for over half a century, seniors gathered at the food court for coffee and where families came to shop and connect. It was always a safe, welcoming space and a pillar of our community. But just last week, another violent robbery at Hillcrest Mall has shaken our community. This time, jewelry store employees were pepper sprayed and assaulted in a terrifying smash and grab. The mall was locked down and hundreds of shoppers, including young children, were left terrified. A few days later, arrests were made, and what did we learn? The suspects were repeat offenders who were out on bail after committing another violent robbery. These attacks are part of a disturbing pattern across the country fueled by 10 years of liberal soft on crime policies. Communities are living in fear, and violence is becoming the new normal. Conservatives call for ending catch and release, bringing back mandatory prison time, and keeping our streets safe. It's time to end the revolving door justice system and lock up the criminals for good.
The Honourable Member for Orleans. Mr. Speaker, I would like to start by thanking all public servants in Orleans and across Canada for their essential work as we celebrate National Public Service Week. The next 2 weeks mark the beginning of graduation for our grade 12 students. I would like to congratulate the 1,514 graduates from the 8 secondary schools in Orleans.
Class of 2025, you did it. I look forward to seeing what you will achieve in your next chapter. And as summer arrives, I wish everyone in Orléans a wonderful summer. Let's all take time to relax, recharge, and spend time with friends and family. I also would like to invite all of you to join me at Petrie Island to celebrate Canada Day on July 1st and my annual family barbecue on August 28th. Merci.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, today I would like to recognize the contributions of the incredible resource sector workers in my riding and indeed the country. The loggers, the miners, the farmers, the fishermen, the energy sector workers in oil and natural gas, the hardworking men and women of this country whose work gives us the lumber from which we build our homes and the fuel from which we heat them, the gas that moves us from A to B, and the food and fish that sustain us. These are the workers who built this country and continue to build it every single day, and yet too often their contributions are denigrated, their jobs threatened, and in some cases their livelihoods destroyed. This despite the fact that it is their sweat and their toil that serves as the foundation on which the rest of our economy and country is built. So I hope that all parliamentarians from all parties will join me in recognizing these amazing Canadians and thanking them for their contributions to Canada.
Great speaker. The honourable member for London West.
Speaker, on June 20th, we are turning the page. The anti-scab legislation will come to force, banning replacement workers during strikes and lockouts in all federally regulated sectors. It's a long overdue step towards a fairer economy, and for far too long, the threat of replacement labor weakened bargaining and eroded trust. This law, however, will restore balance. It'll protect integrity of collective bargaining and leave good Canadian workers less vulnerable. We are sending a clear message that Canadian workers are not replaceable, Mr. Speaker, and now more than ever, as we gear up to build the historical economy, workers will be the building block of that for a stronger economy, a more just and resilient Canada. I want to thank every worker and the Canadian Labour Congress who worked really hard to see this bill through, and especially our old colleague, Minister Seamus O'Regan, and our Liberal government has and will continue to stand up for workers, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Calgary East.
The Prime Minister said he was a man with a plan. Well, a budget is a plan, and now he's shooting blanks. After being Trudeau's economic advisor for the past 5 years, he's worse than the old guy when it comes to accountability and transparency. And as the Liberals hide, Canadians are worried about how much more debt, inflation, and taxes are going to be dumped on him, since this guy says he's going to spend even more than Justin Trudeau did. Wow. A spring budget could tell Canadians what the plan is to lower the cost of government, which would lower the cost of living. It could show a plan to actually get homes built and not more bureaucracy. A spring budget could show Canadians a plan to gain economic independence from the U.S. by scrapping anti-energy laws like C-69, C-48, and the job-killing oil and gas cap. It could have a plan in it to make our to bring home safer streets by repealing hug-a-thug laws like C-75 and C-5 and finally get immigration under control. If this Prime Minister is the guy who says he's a man with a plan, he needs to prove it and bring home a spring budget now.
The Honourable Member for Balaye-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, in 5 days, we will be celebrating the national holiday of Quebec. Summer festivities with songs. We'll be celebrating our history and our own stories. I'd like to remind people that 45 years ago, René Lévesque told us how to live with our neighbors equal to equal. As partners, we didn't impose our vision or our plans or our different interests. From south to the west, and in the Far East and perhaps even in Asia, through these challenges, we'll realize that as allied partners, this also involves equality for our nation like all others. We hope that this summer will bring people rest, and that with this in mind, I wish all Quebecers and those who love them a wonderful national holiday and allow us to dream of a country to come.
Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I lost a friend and my community lost one of our true leaders. Today I would like to honor and pay respect to the memory of Sandy Butterly. Sandy was one-of-a-kind woman who would help out and champion every cause which would benefit our entire community. She generously donated to organizations like the Hospice Society, the White Rock Pride Society, the local community Christmas dinners, Coldest Night of the Year, and Unity, generously contributing to a housing project for people with intellectual disabilities in an inclusive environment. Sandy believed in supporting the local business community and would frequently stop in and visit and encourage the business owners. She even had an omelette named after her at the locally owned diner that she was seen at most mornings. Her kind and caring spirit will live on in the memory of all who met her and loved her. Rest in peace, Sandy.
The honourable member for Swift Current Grasslands Kindersley.
Canadian oil and gas is the key to our prosperity. 10 years of Liberal anti-energy laws have kept it in the ground and stopped pipelines from getting built. Laws like C-69, the No New Pipelines Act, C-48, the shipping ban, the oil and gas production cap, the industrial carbon tax. It's impossible to ignore the national consensus to get rid of these bad Liberal laws. There was an election this spring where the Prime Minister promised big things. Then we heard fancy speeches from him in Calgary. He's also met with the premiers in Saskatoon. Parliament has already sat for 4 weeks. We just hosted the G7 meetings in Alberta with key energy allies, yet we still haven't seen any announcements for new projects or proposals. The Prime Minister needs to stop with the fancy words and act on repealing the Liberal anti-energy policies immediately. Canadians need a government that will approve energy infrastructure, sell to our allies, and deliver paychecks to our people. Now that the Prime Minister's elbows are clearly down, it's time for him to stand up and get back to work.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Ottawa West Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to recognize the incredible communities of Ambleside and Northwest 1 in Ottawa West Nepean. Both of these are celebrating their 50th anniversaries. These are more than just condo towers. They are what we call NORCs, naturally occurring retirement communities. Ambleside 1 and 2 and the Northwest 1 towers, Poulain and Regina, are home to many longtime residents, including some who have lived there since the beginning. These are vibrant communities where residents truly look out for each other. They host Friday night potlucks, organize yoga, choirs, current affairs discussions, and support the surrounding communities with food drives, environmental action, and more. While there are some young families, most of the residents are older adults, and their community spirit combats the social isolation of seniors, helping residents live longer, healthier, and more connected lives. Congratulations to Ambleside 1 and 2 and to Northwest 1. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for York Durham.
Mr. Speaker, over this session of Parliament, I have repeatedly asked the Liberals how they will fix the housing crisis that they themselves have created. And the response has been typical from Liberals. The government will save you. Not one, not two, but 3 government housing agencies will build your home for you, and you should be thankful about it. Well, the next generation of homebuyers doesn't need the government to save them. They just want what generations before them had, an opportunity to work hard and own a home of their own choosing. The generational unfairness is on display in this House. Questions from the next generation of home buyers who are shut out of the market, and half measures from the Liberal housing minister turned robber baron who is profiting from the dysfunction he now oversees. Mr. Speaker, it was that minister who said housing prices don't need to come down. The Liberals simply don't understand the housing crisis, Mr. Speaker, and I wonder if that's simply because too many of them are profiting from it.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellon. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow we will celebrate a significant event in Alfred Pellon, the 30th anniversary of the Marronnier residence, a true pillar for our seniors and an exceptional place to live in the heart of our community. Since 1994, this residence, founded by the Morzadek family, has provided an exemplary living environment for more than 1,700 residents. It is distinguished by its warm atmosphere, modern facilities, and dedicated staff who place the well-being of seniors at the heart of everything they do. The Marronnier is much more than a place to live. It's a true community, woven together by respect, solidarity, and joie de vivre. I would like to thank and congratulate the residents, staff, volunteers, and managers for their daily commitment. Happy 30th anniversary to the entire Le Marronnier family.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are asking Parliament to approve $500 billion in spending without committee oversight, without ministers being able to answer even simple questions in this House, and without a budget. The Parliamentary Budget Officer stated the deficit could be as high as $20 billion more than originally projected, and that legislators risk even more faith in this government than usual due to no budget. So sure, more faith in this government that promised to significantly reduce consulting spending, but is increasing it to $26 billion this year for their friends like at McKinsey. So sure, more faith in the government that promised a 2% spending cap increase, and yet is increasing it by 8%. If the Liberals continue this way and don't present a budget till spring, it'll be at least a year since the last budget, the longest period since the 60s outside of COVID. Canada needs a budget now to control inflation, reduce deficit, and stop tax hikes, and reverse the lost decade of Liberal failure.
The honourable member for Vancouver Granville.
It's an honour to rise in this House as a re-elected Member of Parliament for Vancouver Granville. I want to thank my constituents for placing your trust in me once more. Your ideas and determination inspire me every day. I want to thank the hundreds of volunteers that supported me and my family who give so much to allow me to serve. From Kitts Point to South Van, from Shaughnessy to Main Street, from South Cambie to Granville Island, I'm here to make sure that our community's priorities, affordable housing, better healthcare, a stronger, more innovative economy, and safer streets, are top of mind. Now is the time to ensure that all Canadians' ideas and ambitions become reality. To my constituents, I carry your stories with me into every conversation and every decision I make in this place. You've placed your trust in me to be your voice in Ottawa, and I don't take that responsibility lightly. I will keep working hard to make sure that you're heard and you're well represented. This work is about you, and I'm here to fight for what matters most for our community. Let's build Canada strong together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
All right, here we go.
This Liberal government is doubling down on its insane ban on gas-powered vehicles. The latest Liberal overreach kicks in next year, and soon your favorite car, truck, and van will be illegal. But this mandate is already driving up prices. The average price of a new car is $67,000. Used cars are approaching $40,000, and this Liberal mandate will add an additional $20,000 per vehicle. They've already priced working Canadians out of the housing market. Why are they pricing working Canadians out of the ability to buy a vehicle as well?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, first let's start with the facts, which is there is no ban on gas-powered vehicles. But more to the point, let's also say, once again, we're seeing the Conservatives talking down one of our most important industries, employing hard-working auto workers in our country at the very moment that we're facing terrorist threats from the United States. I find it rich that they are choosing to take this position instead of talking up a growing and important industry. We stand with our auto workers.
Leader of the Opposition.
There absolutely is a ban. It starts to come into effect next year, and it will absolutely devastate the auto sector here in Canada. The auto sector is already under fire from unjustified U.S. tariffs and the PM's inability to get a deal, but GM, Ford are all saying that this ban will kill jobs. In fact, a new report says that this ban on gas-powered vehicles will kill 90,000 auto jobs. Instead of sending even more jobs to the U.S., why not end the ban on gas-powered vehicles and let Canadians decide what kind of vehicle they want to buy?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, it's nice to hear that they're finally recognizing that we're talking about an industry that's facing unjustified tariffs from the United States.
That's right.
But let's also talk about how our auto sector is important. We need to support it in this moment. It's creating good-paying union jobs in our country. An EV standard actually makes sure that new electric vehicles are available to Canadians. They're cheaper to operate, they're cheaper on upkeep, and Canadians want to be able to have access.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
You don't have to allow Canadians to buy one type of vehicle by banning their ability to buy the ones that they actually want. But, you know, this is raising a lot of questions. Canadians, auto workers, Ford, GM, they all don't want the EV mandate, but the Prime Minister is intent on pushing it through. Why? Well, right before becoming Prime Minister, he was chair of Brookfield, and he advocated for a ban on gas-powered cars. Brookfield is heavily invested in the EV supply chain, yet this Prime Minister refuses to reveal his financial interests or self-admitted conflicts. Isn't it true that this isn't about the environment, this is about the bottom line for Brookfield?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence.
We're in a trade war launched by the United States that's targeting our auto workers and our auto sector. Make no mistake, we will fight for every job and every worker. We have invested in the auto sector, including the EV sector, to build good jobs in places like St. Thomas, where the Amino Corp is employing people. This government will always invest in workers and make sure that the auto industry is growing, resilient, and successful.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, every time this Liberal government proposes new environmental measures, it's either a tax or a requirement. They want to ban the sale of gas-powered vehicles, which will cost Canadians 50,000 jobs. They want to punish Quebecers who choose a gas-powered vehicle by imposing a $20,000 price hike, even though they know the average price of a new car is already $67,000. Why does the Prime Minister want to take away Canadians' choice? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, let's begin by saying we're not banning those vehicles. Secondly, in Quebec, in his riding, there are already regulations to ensure that Quebecers have access to EVs. So even in his riding, there are already regulations in place. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. I'd like to tell the minister that in Quebec, people are already saying this won't work. The banning gas-powered cars after 2035 won't work. It's a question of choice, not control. What we're seeing is the Liberal government trying to control Canadians, but many people can't afford or can't use or simply don't want an EV. Tell someone in northern Quebec who wants to go hunting or fishing or into the woods, how are they supposed to do that with an EV? It's impossible. So forcing Canadians is not the right way to go. The Honourable Environment Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, we are not requiring people to buy EVs, and we are not banning combustion engine vehicles. But EVs are less expensive to buy and to maintain, and Canadians want access to EVs. So why do they not want Canadians to have that choice? The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, that government has already tried to control Canadians' lives through the carbon tax for years. What has the new Prime Minister done? He scrapped the carbon tax because he knew it wasn't working. We're asking for the same thing here. Stop forcing Canadians to buy EVs. They want gas-powered vehicles. They want the choice because gas cars work for them. And once again, the Liberals are making it too expensive for people to afford things because of their ideology. The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, this is absurd. It's whatever, anything and everything that we're hearing from the other side. Once again, we are going to help our auto industry workers if the Conservatives don't want, if they're saying that our cars are not good enough, that's their choice. But on this side of the House, we will defend our auto industry. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the theme of the election campaign was a terrible crisis, a trade war, and a tariff war. And the next day, poof, we hear nothing more about it. The Prime Minister was supposed to meet President Trump in Washington, and all he came back with was nothing much. And yet significant concessions have been made around tariffs and the border and defense. And then the Prime Minister has come back from the G7 empty-handed. Are workers supposed to be satisfied with a 30-day wait-and-see period? The Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs and U.S.-Canada relations. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the U.S. President had a meeting that was constructive in Kananaskis. In connection with the G7, they discussed a number of topics. Obviously, the priority for us was to talk directly with Trump on tariffs And precisely as my colleague just indicated, the impact on the economy and workers in Canada, we wanted to discuss that. And also the impact on the U.S., on their economy and their workers. And we needed to point out why this was harmful to the U.S. itself. And I'm convinced we made progress, but we won't stop until it's done. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we're not out of the woods yet. While the government was preoccupied with the G7. There's been time allocation here. No, there's no debate. Nothing's happening with the trade war. All we're talking about here is oil. But C5 has nothing to do with trade, nothing to do with tariffs in the foreseeable future. Will the government, have the government and the Prime Minister got their priorities in the wrong place? The Honourable Minister of Canada-US Relations. Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, this bill, the purpose of it is specifically to counter the tariff, the threat of the tariffs and the threat to our economy. During the election campaign, the Prime Minister was crystal clear. We are going to build major projects in Canada. We're going to do it the right way, respecting environmental standards in partnership with First Nations and the provinces and territories. I know our Bloc friend is perhaps not happy to see us working with the provinces and territories to do great things in Canada, but that's exactly what we're going to do. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. We need to stop starting our sentences that way. C5 will have no positive impact on the Canadian economy, but it will have a huge impact on the public purse. It will have no impact on the trade war, no impact on the tariffs, and no impact on Canadian output. Can people stop taking Canadians for fools and admit that C5 is the Prime Minister's business plan and that it runs counter to the interests of Quebec workers? The Honourable Minister of Transport and Internal Domestic Trade. Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for my colleague from the Bloc, but I can't agree with the idea that C5 will not assist the Canadian economy. Experts who've studied the impact of free trade within Canada have found that this will add $200 billion to the Canadian economy and that our GDP will increase by 2% and 4%. That's a huge impact, Mr. Speaker.
Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, in Saskatoon, winter temperatures often hit minus 30 degrees, so families need vehicles that actually work in the winter. But this Prime Minister, backed by his radical Environment Minister, is doubling down on Justin Trudeau's plan to ban gas-powered cars and force Canadians to buy expensive EVs that don't stand up to the cold. His plan will hike car prices by $20,000 and leave families stranded. It's out of touch, it's unaffordable, and it's anti-choice. Will the Prime Minister stop punishing Canadians for living in a cold country and repeal his unscientific, job-killing electric vehicle mandate now?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence
Mr. Speaker,
and Digital
we're in a trade
Innovation.
war launched by the U.S., as we know. The auto sector is already under attack. Let's hope that my colleagues join us in not attacking the auto sector, but in supporting jobs across the auto sector in all forms and making sure that our communities remain strong in that industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
That's exactly what this government is doing. It's attacking the auto sector. Our supposedly elbows-up Prime Minister promised to get tough with the U.S., but these unjustified tariffs will kill 50,000 Canadian auto sector jobs. And while he's bungling the trade talks, his self-imposed ban on gas-powered cars will gut another 40,000 jobs. The combination of these two failures will be disastrous for our auto industry. That's 90,000 jobs gone. Poof. Will the Prime Minister admit his failures are killing our auto sector and instead finally stand up for 90,000 Canadian jobs?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this line of questioning is somewhat absurd. Whether you want to get on a skidoo, whether you want to get on an all-terrain vehicle, whether you want to gas up your F-150, whether the plumber wants to take the truck to work, that is that person's choice in this country. There is no ban on gas-powered vehicles. This is completely conjured up fake showmanship from the Conservatives. Unbelievable. There is an auto sector in Canada. We're going to stand up for the people in it. We're going to protect it, and we're going to give consumers choice.
The honourable member for Edmonton, Manning.
Mr. Speaker, an Access poll says 2/3 of Canadians disagree with the disastrous Liberal plan for the ban of sale of new gas-powered vehicles by 2035. The EV mandate will eliminate 38,000 jobs and cost $138.7 billion. U.S. tariffs could mean 1,000 more jobs lost. Prices will go up by $20,000 per vehicle. Canadian jobs will vanish. When will the Liberals repeal their EV mandate?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm having trouble understanding the actual line of questioning from the opposition. They're trying to imply.
Again, yeah. I couldn't hear. Yeah. I couldn't hear, and it's important that I be able to hear the conversation. The Honourable Government House Leader from the top, if you wish.
Mr. Speaker, I know that Member of Parliament. He knows there's no ban on gas-powered vehicles. He knows. Look, I'll invite him to the riding. We'll go out on a skidoo ride when the winter comes. The fact is that Canadians have choice. We'll continue to have choice. In the meantime, we're going to power a new industry, putting Canadian auto workers, unifor workers, unionized men and women to work building all kinds of vehicles.
For Edmonton, Griesbach.
I believe it's on the website. Now, it's not a surprise to Albertans that Liberals think gas and diesel are pure evil. Why else would they be sticking with Justin Trudeau's EV mandates? EV sales are sagging. Auto manufacturers are dead set against these mandates. Mr. Speaker, this Liberal idea is a real clunker. And it's an affront to free choice. So, will the Prime Minister reverse this reckless policy and let Canadians buy the vehicles they actually want to buy?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
You know, Mr. Speaker, when I go down to the street corner near my house, they have this thing called a pump. The pump offers various choices of grades of gasoline, and for the honourable member's benefit, there's a yellow one that says diesel. So if you happen to have a diesel engine, you stick the pump into that one, into your vehicle, and you know what? You have a choice. You run your diesel truck or you run your diesel car. That's all good, Mr. Speaker. Canadians have the choice. Let's drive on.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, contrary to that member's remarks, I'm reading Canada's Electric Vehicle Availability Standard regulated targets for zero-emission vehicles on my phone right now. It's on their website. They are regulating this. They are mandating this while Canadians are not choosing to buy EVs. EV sales are down 45% in our country right now. And that's okay. Living in a liberal democracy means different people make different choices for their families based on their different needs as they see fit. Why won't the Liberals respect the right of Canadians to choose the vehicle that serves their family best?
Hey! Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
I have a question for the Conservatives. Why in this moment, when we are facing unjustified tariffs from the United States, are they talking down a climate competitive industry that's right here in our country? In fact, globally, if they looked at the reports, including the International Energy Agency's reports, global rates for the purchase of EVs are going up. So this is a growing sector. I hope that they will support it, because we do.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Bloc and Liberals voted against our motion to repeal the ban on gas-powered vehicles. They want to force their lifestyle on everyone without being aware of the reality. This ban would directly penalise regions like mine and many others. In the Saguenay, it's cold. There's not much public transportation. compared to major cities. We need our gas-powered vehicles. Why does the Prime Minister want to dictate Canadians what kind of vehicle they have to buy? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, I recognize my honourable colleague. He was a coach of a hockey team in the Saguenay, not as good as the one in my riding, but I think he's breathed in the air of a Zamboni. And a Zamboni, there are gas-powered ones, and there are natural gas-powered ones, and there are electric Zambonis. There's a choice of Zambonis, and consumers need to have a choice too, Mr. Speaker. It'll work well for everyone. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Leflore. Do you know that the average price of a new car is already $66,000? The Liberal mandate to tax gas-powered cars will increase the price by $20,000. Saguenay residents need the freedom to choose the vehicle that meets their needs at an affordable price, and they can't be forced to drive an EV. We need our gas-powered pickup trucks to go into the woods and work, and we want to be sure we can get home at night. Will the Liberals and the Bloc keep undermining our regions? The Honourable Government House Leader. Not only, Mr. Speaker, will we not undermine our regions, we will build our regions. We will build regions like Bécancour, where the auto industry has now expanded and we're electrifying transportation.
Colleagues across the way, there's a guy in Queen's Park. His name is Doug Ford. He supports electric vehicles. He supports an automobile industry in Ontario and across Canada. I suggest maybe they give Doug Ford a call, see what he thinks about EVs.
The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals and the Conservatives all voted to make Quebecers pay $814 million in fake carbon rebate checks to Canadians. This was confirmed by the Parliamentary Budget Officer, who said the funds would clearly come from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. What's worse, Quebecers will have to keep paying. As the PBO said, it's clear that we're paying interest on this because in a deficit situation, every additional expenditure results in additional borrowing. Mr. Speaker, why are the Liberals and the Conservatives stealing from Quebecers? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, it's very, very simple. Quebec did not participate in the carbon tax for consumers. The rebate is for, it's an adjustment for communities and provinces that did have the carbon tax for consumers. Quebec was not a part of that, and so the rebate doesn't apply to them. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, people sometimes ask, what good is the Bloc Québécois? Well, at the very least, it's good to have members of Parliament who don't steal $814 million from Quebecers so they can cut checks to Canadians. There are now 44 Liberals from Quebec, all of whom voted to steal from Quebecers. Just like the 11 Conservatives from Quebec, they all rejected the National Assembly's unanimous demand to pay the money back to Quebec. Clearly, they don't stand up for Quebecers. So the real question is not what good is the Bloc, it's more like what good are those other guys? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, it's very simple. The the carbon tax did not apply in Quebec, and so the rebate didn't apply either. It's quite simple.
Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
The CMHC released May's housing starts, and predictably for this government, the outlook is not good. In Belleville, starts are down over 50 points, and in Toronto, nearly 60%. This minister's staggering ignorance of the plight of everyday Canadians is not surprising when you remember that he's not only stuck up in his ivory tower here in Ottawa, but sitting on a massive $10 million real estate portfolio.
Shame.
Mr. Speaker, why is this housing minister telling young Canadians that home prices don't need to go down? Is he unable or unwilling?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we are well aware of the challenges Canadians have with housing affordability. That's why they elected us to represent them and drive the pace of housing construction in Canada. That's what we will do. That's what we will deliver. We've already delivered on the GST break for first-time home buyers. We're going to take it farther and faster. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Tell that to the young Canadians that cannot afford a home, Mr. Speaker. For a decade, this Liberal government has continuously failed to address housing crisis with solutions. To add insult to injury, they've appointed a minister who has a significant interest in seeing housing prices soaring sky high. Yep. Mr. Speaker, this housing minister is actually part of the problem. Mr. Speaker, how can Canadians actually trust a government that cannot lower housing costs and a minister who has personal interest in keeping prices high and young Canadians in the basement?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians remember when Pierre Poilievre stood in front of a woman's house, a Canadian women's house in Niagara Falls and called it a shack. I remember when Pierre Poilievre stood in this house and called the co-op where I grew up Soviet-style housing. Now, if that wasn't enough, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are stigmatizing modern, modular, affordable housing as shipping containers. Mr. Speaker, these Conservatives have voted against every single measure to support lower-income families to be able to access affordable housing. And, Mr. Speaker, it's people like me that grew up in the type of housing that those Conservatives want to insult. That's pretty ironic given that, despite not getting re-elected, Mr. Speaker, Pierre Poilievre continues to live in taxpayer-funded government housing.
The honourable member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, under the Liberals, we've become a country with two kinds of families, those that already own real estate and those that likely never will. But media reports that the housing minister owns real estate worth millions of dollars while he tells Canadians who can't afford a home that prices must not fall. Will this minister and former mayor of one of the most unaffordable places on earth admit that his government spent a decade driving up housing prices and apologize to Canadians for crushing their dreams of home ownership?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this minister has stood up and articulated and represents policies that we debated in an election campaign that will create hundreds of thousands of new homes for Canadians. In the meantime, he will of course be in compliance with the very strict ethics code and regulations that we all live under in this House of Commons, and doubting the contrary is frankly unseemly on the part of the member.
The honourable member for Calgary-Crowfoot.
Well, Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of driving prices up, housing supply has never been worse. According to CMHC, housing starts are down 10% in Vancouver, down 58% in Toronto, down 51% in Hamilton, and down 71% in London. And all these cities receive funding under the Liberals' so-called Housing Accelerator Fund, and their housing starts are falling. Why is this minister protecting real estate investors instead of giving hope to millions of Canadians locked out of home ownership by this government?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the member needs to check the facts. The housing starts across Canada are up almost 280,000 pace this year, which is almost record level. Mr. Speaker, we've been building at strong pace this year and last. We're seeing unprecedented levels of rental housing being constructed for the first time in decades. Yep. This government is delivering, and we will take it farther. We will double the rate. Thank you.
The honourable member for Battleford's Lloydminster Meadow.
Mr. Speaker, the housing minister is part of the problem. He said that housing prices do not need to come down. And now we know why. He has $10 million real estate portfolio, including 3, not 1, 2, but 3 luxury properties. Housing costs have doubled under these Liberals, putting home ownership out of reach for more and more Canadians. How can he sit in his Vancouver penthouse and tell young Canadians that are priced out of the market that prices don't need to come down?
Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, there's an old saying about people in glass houses. Well, a lot of those Conservative members also have quite a few investment properties. They rent out their units, Mr. Speaker. But another thing, Mr. Speaker, I just want to reiterate that their leader, Pierre Poilievre, didn't get re-elected, and he continues to live in taxpayer-funded government housing. What's clear, Mr. Speaker, is any time those Conservatives have an opportunity to support lower-income or vulnerable families and their access to truly affordable housing, they vote against every single measure.
The honourable member for Pickering, Brooklyn.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this month, I had the pleasure of attending the Seniors Month celebration in my riding of Pickering, Brooklyn. This event brought together dozens of local seniors for an afternoon filled with live music, dancing, light refreshments, and the presentation of Senior of the Year award. It was a vibrant testament to the vital role seniors play in enriching our community. Seniors are the backbone of our town, serving as volunteers, caregivers, and lifelong contributors. So I ask, Mr. Speaker, to the Secretary of State for Seniors, what is our government doing to ensure seniors, especially those on fixed income, can age with dignity, security in communities like mine and across?
The Secretary of State for Seniors.
The honourable member for her advocacy. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring that seniors can age with dignity. We have introduced several initiatives that are making a real difference in the lives of seniors. We have provided an OAS increase of 10%, increased the guaranteed income supplement for low-income seniors, made dental care available to seniors age 65 and older, and invested in projects under the New Horizons program. We will continue to work with provinces, municipalities, and community partners to ensure that every senior from Pickering to Vancouver Island has what they need to thrive.
The honourable member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
5 to 7 grains of salt, 0.2 milligrams. That's how much fentanyl it takes to kill somebody. So, Mr. Speaker, it's no surprise that Canadians would be shocked when somebody who had 24 grams of fentanyl, enough to kill thousands of people, was sentenced to house arrest. Who do I blame? Again, not the judge, not the prosecutor, not the defense lawyer. I blame these Liberals for their lack of action, for passing Bill C-5. So when will they finally legislate so that people who traffic fentanyl can't serve their sentence on the couch?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it's clear the fentanyl crisis is responsible for the taking of innocent lives in this country. It's incumbent upon all members of this House to approach this with empathy, but also with a level of seriousness can prevent fentanyl from sweeping through the nation, causing such damage. Going forward, we are going to be implementing a series of reforms that will target violent offenders, repeat offenders, and organized crime, which was responsible for the preponderance of fentanyl in this country. I hope that we can work across the aisle on this important issue to help keep Canadians safe and protect our communities.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson-Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, that all sounds great. Unfortunately, that minister voted for Bill C-5 that took away mandatory minimums for people serving their sentence for fentanyl trafficking, for gun trafficking, for extortion with a firearm. Fentanyl is killing people, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. So will that minister look into this camera, Mr. Speaker, and tell people whose children are victims, people who have died from fentanyl, will he look into that camera and tell them that he will legislate to end this insanity?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it's essential that we approach this level with the seriousness with which it deserves, including respect for decisions that have come from courts in this country. As we move forward, we're going to work in a manner that will ensure serious crimes will be treated seriously and serious offenders will be punished seriously. Mr. Speaker, I hope we can avoid turning something as serious as the fentanyl crisis into a partisan issue for political gain and instead work to advance measures in a collaborative manner to help protect Canadians, their families, and communities in every region of this country.
Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
A worker at a so-called safe injection site in Toronto helped someone literally try to get away with murder. Her sentence was a house arrest sentence with educational programming and daily trips to the gym. Par for the course from these lawless Liberals who care more about criminals than victims and think bail should be as easy to get as free drugs. So when will these Liberals stop ignoring pleas from Canadians to fix the justice system and clean up the streets?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, it is beyond reprehensible that a member of this House would accuse another member of caring more about criminals than Canadians. We should be able to work together to certainly punish wrongdoers, but also give law enforcement the tools that they need to keep their community safe. We have been giving tools to law enforcement, so we don't only punish wrongdoers after a crime has been committed, but we prevent it in the first instance. I want to thank the law enforcement officials who've been in the news recently for the various busts that they've been responsible for bringing people to justice. I hope we can work together across partisan lines to advance important reforms to the criminal justice system later this year that will help further protect our communities.
Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
If the minister doesn't want to be criticized for caring more about criminals than victims, he should look at his own government's record. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals adjourned the Justice Committee meeting yesterday after 16 minutes to start their summer vacation without tabling or discussing a single motion or bill related to justice. Violent crime is up 50%. Opioid overdose is up 200%. Health officials in my riding are warning about carfentanil on the streets of Elgin County. People are dying and those responsible are walking free. When will these Liberals table a crime bill and focus on that instead of their summer break?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know if the member's eyes betray him, but we are here and ready to work to advance reforms to protect our community. Yesterday, at the Justice Committee, though the accusation is there was an attempt to get home early for summer, what actually happened was a Conservative member was seeking to advance reforms that would have made it easier for people who've been charged with intimate partner violence to get out on bail. I think that is a bad idea, Mr. Speaker, and I'm willing to stay here and work to protect the victims of intimate partner violence and to advance reforms that will punish wrongdoers. Once again, it is not about caring more about criminals than Canadians, but it seems that member cares more about his social media clicks than he does about advancing.
The Honourable Member for Markham, Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is up 357%. The Trudeau Liberals voted down our common sense Conservative bill that enforces a 3-year mandatory minimum penalty for extortion and restores a 4-year minimum penalty for extortion involving a non-restricted firearm. Why? Because it was repealed by the Liberals in their Bill C-5. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister finally adopt the Conservative plan to crack down on violent extortion?
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Toronto Police Service, Durham Police, and of course my friend who represents York Regional Police, and the OPP for their work to dismantle an organized crime group operating in the tow truck industry. Project Yankee has resulted in the seizure of firearms, vehicles, the arrest of 20 individuals, and more than 100 criminal charges, including multiple counts of conspiracy to commit murder. Another day, another criminal organization dismantled by law enforcement. Canada's new government will always be there to protect Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis. 10 feminicides since the beginning of the year in Quebec. 5 in 5 weeks, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, a woman was killed in Vaudreuil-Dorion. She was in a situation where there was a toxic relationship, a violent relationship. The system abandoned her like so many others before her. When will the Prime Minister fix the errors of his predecessor, Mr. Trudeau, who contributed to leaving these women without protection?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, every Canadian should feel safe in their community, especially in their home. We will automatically revoke gun licenses for individuals convicted of intimate partner violence offences and those subject to protection orders. We are delivering on the recommendations made by the Mass Casualty Commission related to community safety, policing, and countering gender-based violence. The implementation of the National Action Plan to combat gender-based violence continues to support the work of continues to support the work of building a Canada free of gender-based violence that supports victims, survivors, and their families, no matter where they live.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis. The facts are the facts, Mr. Speaker. Under the Liberals, violence against women keeps going up. By maintaining Justin Trudeau's bills C5 and C75, this government is choosing to protect criminals instead of victims. In the meantime, women are living in fear. This government needs to look at itself and understand that it is responsible for the problem. When will the Prime Minister act, change these laws, and ensure the safety of all women in Canada, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for her question. I'm very emotional rising in the House on this subject. I'm standing here as part of this Liberal government because up until March this year, the Liberal government worked tirelessly to reduce the danger of firearms for Canadians by investing in that area and by banning assault weapons. There's more that needs to be done. We need to go as far as we can. That's what a government does when it fights crime.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
New reports from the Department of National Defence confirmed today that less than 50% of the equipment used by our armed forces is operational. Only 46% of our Navy ships are seaworthy, and less than half of our land vehicles and aircraft needed by our Army and Air Force are even serviceable. While the Prime Minister makes grandiose claims of fixing our armed forces, the actual numbers tell a very different story. Money without results will not defend Canada's sovereignty. Why should anyone believe this Prime Minister when his own Defence Department contradicts his promises?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. In the last decade, we've tripled our defence spending. We're investing $72 billion through our defence policy update, $40 billion through NORAD modernisation, $11 billion to train our next generation of aviators. We're procuring 200 new aircraft, 12 submarines, 6 Arctic and offshore patrol ships, 2 joint support ships, and so much more. Now more than ever, it's time to support and equip our forces with what they need to meet the challenges we face.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Well, throwing money at the problem doesn't fix the problem. The facts show that the lost Liberal decade has reduced the capabilities needed by the armed forces to protect Canada today. Last year, the department said it would meet their targets this year, but now the Liberals have kicked the can down the road for another 7 years before the operations of the armed forces will be up to standard. Under the Liberal watch, our armed forces simply don't have the tools they need to do the job to deal with today's growing threats. The Prime Minister's talk is cheap. Where is the plan?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister announced $4.5 billion yesterday for our efforts in Ukraine.
That's right.
We've committed to reduce overall government spending by more than $15 billion, Mr. Speaker, while ensuring the services and the supports that Canadians rely on are there. We have exceptional expert staff dedicated to meeting our priorities, but we also sometimes rely on outside expertise. The member knows this, but we're committed to doing so in a transparent and fiscally responsible way. Any potential reductions, Mr. Speaker, in spending are being considered carefully, and minimizing the impact of military readiness is the driving force behind each decision.
I thought it was the Honourable Member for Fleetwood Port Kells.
Mr. Speaker, 1 in 4 Canadians avoid visiting a dentist because of the cost and accessibility. Delaying preventive care can have wide-reaching impact, including more expensive treatments, worsening health outcomes, and lost productivity. Can the Minister of Jobs and Family please update Canadians on our plan to deliver dental care to uninsured Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague from Fleetwood Port Kells for this important question. In the last elections, Canadians chose to place their vote with a party that knows that Canada is strong when we take care of each other. As of May 29, 2025, all eligible Canadians can now apply for the Canadian Dental Care Plan. And to date, Mr. Speaker, 4 million Canadians have been approved for coverage, and over 2 million have received care, including people in my community of Thunder Bay Superior North. So for more information, visit canada.ca/dental.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, David Eby, the Premier of British Columbia, has doubled down and made the plan for BC Ferries to purchase 4 new vessels from a Chinese state-owned enterprise, his own. The Minister of Transport has said they will give BC Ferries $36 million this year. Will the Minister commit today that she will personally guarantee that not 1 cent of this transfer will go to this Chinese shipyard? Or will she stand up against David Eby's moral failure to support Canadian jobs in steel and shipbuilding and make this transfer conditional on BC Ferries to support jobs here in this great country?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I share the concern, the anger of other members of this House about the purchase of Chinese ferries. I have written to the province of BC to make clear that the federal government support for BC Ferries, which is explicitly for operating support, must not be used for anything other than the operation of ferries. We owe it to the people of BC to support the operation of their ferries. We also owe it to the people of Canada to support Canadian shipbuilding, Canadian steel, and Canadian...
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
So she's just got to write a check to them with no conditions, Mr. Speaker. So during the election, they were all elbows up and talking about Team Canada in the face of unjustified American tariffs on steel and aluminum. And I thought it was bad enough that the government has been elbows down since the election on protecting Canadian jobs. But now, does the government not see that by going along to get along with David Eby, that they're not on Team Canada but on Team China?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, my answer was very clear, as have been my previous answers on this question. Federal government support goes only for operating costs. The federal government has no authority over BC Ferries. However, Mr. Speaker, I want to object in the strongest possible terms about an insult to a premier of a Canadian province and a suggestion that a Canadian premier would act in the interests of China and not of Canada. All of our premiers are patriots, as are all members of this House.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
The BC Ferries deal didn't sink Canadian shipbuilders, Mr. Speaker. Ottawa did. Our shipbuilding unions say Canadian companies couldn't bid because federal policies stack the deck against them. It's the federal government's job to set fair conditions so provinces can build at home. But all this government does is rearrange Liberal deck chairs. So, Mr. Speaker, what I want to know is this. Will the Liberals fix their broken policies, or are we going to just keep waving goodbye to good Canadian jobs from the dock?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, there seems to be some confusion among the Conservative MPs about what is provincial jurisdiction and what is federal jurisdiction. There is no such confusion on this side of the House. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I want to inform all members of this House that I have instructed all of the entities under control of transport to buy Canadian, and where that is not possible, to buy reciprocally from free trade partners who give Canada access to their government procurement. That's what we should all be doing at all levels.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga Lakeshore.
Earlier this week, Peel Police announced the outcome of Project Outsource, an 11th-month project that has led to multiple arrests connected with extortions, shootings, and fraud. This affects my community and others. Can the Secretary of State for Combating Crime speak to the actions that the government is taking to crack down on organized crime, protect our streets, and keep Canadians safe.
Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank the honourable member from Mississauga Lakeshore for his question, and to thank Chief Nishan Duriappa, who's here in Ottawa today to collaborate with our new government on public safety, and to thank the dedicated officers of Peel Police who, through Project Outsource, have dealt a significant blow against criminal networks responsible for intimidating and harming members of our community. The Strong Borders Act is giving police across the country the tools needed to replicate the success of Project Outsource. Organized crime should be on high alert. Canada's new government will do what it takes to dismantle their network, seize their guns, freeze their cash.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, as a retired police officer who has served on the front lines for nearly 3 decades, I have seen firsthand the damage violent criminals can do, especially when the justice system fails to hold them accountable. Today, extortion is up nearly 400%, and that is not a coincidence. The Liberals repealed mandatory minimums and gutted the Bail Reform Act. They even voted down a Conservative bill to restore serious penalties for extortion involving firearms. My former colleagues are working the front lines begging for help. Will the Prime Minister finally listen and adopt the Conservative plan to crack down on violence?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, first let me acknowledge and thank my honourable colleague for his years of service to promote public safety in this country. I will say, however, Mr. Speaker, that we are working alongside police forces and federations representing frontline members to understand the needs of frontline officers to ensure they have the resources to help communities, keep communities safe. In addition, we are moving forward with a series of reforms that are going to strengthen sentencing regimes for violent repeat offenders, as well as addressing needs of the bail system, particularly targeting home invasions, human trafficking, auto theft, and other offences related to organized crime. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to work with that honourable member and benefit from his experience as we advance these important reforms.
Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, Nova Scotia is ready to negotiate a pharmacare deal, but it's still waiting on an invitation from Health Canada. Yet the Prime Minister hasn't committed to expanding pharmacare for all Canadians. Access to essential medications shouldn't depend on where you live or your private coverage. With the job losses from Trump's trade war, the need for public medication coverage is clear. Will this Liberal government commit to delivering universal pharmacare for all Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the member from the opposition for his question, and I can assure him that we are working closely with the provinces and territories to give the best healthcare system possible to Canadians.
And that is the end of question period. I have, 2 points of order. The honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I have in my hands, Mr. Speaker, a document entitled Canada's Electrical Vehicle Standard with a timeline where it says that the requirements increase to 1.
I don't think so. There's no unanimous consent. The honourable member for Okanagan, Lake West, South Kelowna.
The Minister of Transport said she wrote a letter to David.
Sorry, we can't hear. I'm sorry, the mic doesn't seem to be on. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Could the honourable member repeat that?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just would ask the Minister of Transport to table her letter that she referred to in question period today to David Eby out of respect for transparency.
A point of order, I'm afraid. So,
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid, but it's an expression. It's an expression. Okay. Daily routine of business. It's my duty to lay upon the table, pursuant to subsection 38(3.3) of the Public Servants Disclosure Protection Act, the Public Sector Integrity Commissioner's report for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2025. Pursuant to Standing Order 32.5, this report is deemed to have been permanently referred to the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. The Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
Pursuant to Standing Order 32.2 and consistent with the policy on the tabling of treaties in Parliament, I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaty entitled Agreement between Canada and the European Union amending Annex B of the Agreement on Civil Aviation Safety between Canada and the European Union, done at Washington on June 12, 2024. As well, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 32.2 and consistent with the policy on the tabling of treaties in Parliament, I have the honour to table in both official languages the treaty entitled Agreement between the Government of Canada and the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on Air Transport, done at Ottawa on March 5th, 2025, at Abuja on May 21st, 2025.
Here, I was waiting for those words.
Introduction of government bills. Mr. Anenga Sengri, seconded by Ms. Joly, asks for leave to table an act respecting cybersecurity, amending the Telecommunications Act and making consequential amendments to other acts. This motion is deemed adopted. Mr. Anenda Sengri, seconded by Ms. Joly, proposes that this bill now be read a first time and printed. This motion is deemed adopted.
Bill, première lecture de ce projet de loi.
When will this bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House. Statements by ministers. Reports from interparliamentary delegations. Presenting reports from committees.
Of private members' bills. Ms. Kwan, seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Establish the Office of the Ombudsman for Ombudsperson for the Department of Citizenship and Immigration and to make related and consequential amendments to other acts. The motion is deemed adopted. The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to introduce a private member's bill to establish.
Okay, so there is, 15 minutes until committees start. And again, it's the same thing pretty much, that they're just going to be electing chairs. I'm really just curious to see who the chairs are, and that's pretty much all we're going to tune into for that. Unless I can see if the Transport Committee has Freeland. Because she was supposed to attend yesterday, but they had other people attend. Oh, she is. She is attending. Okay, so you know what? We're gonna watch that. We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna make a new link right now for us to tune into. Because we're gonna switch over to the Transport Committee, where Freeland's going to be answering questions on Bill C5. So it'll be a different link. Let me just get that right now. And we'll watch this for another minute or two while I do that, and then we'll tune out.
At trends and patterns to identify systemic issues. Trust in Canada's immigration system depend upon it being just, effective, and equitable for all. I hope all members of this House will agree and support this bill.
Seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. The motion is deemed adopted.
First reading of this bill, première lecture de ce projet de loi.
When shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House. Ms. Kwan, seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, Cessation of Refugee Protection. The motion is deemed adopted. The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
I rise to introduce a private member's bill to repeal the unjust and unfair conservative laws targeting refugees and protected persons in Canada. And my thanks again to my colleague, my NDP colleague, the member from Rosemont, Le Petit Patrie, for seconding this bill. In 2012, the Conservatives brought in Bill C-31, an unjust and punitive bill. It amended the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, giving CBSA and the Department of Justice the power to retroactively bring cessation applications against permanent residents of Canada, such as if refugees and protected persons to have reavailed themselves of protection by temporarily traveling back to their country of origin. That means people are unable to travel back for any reason, no matter how much time has passed, no matter how whether the conditions in their country has changed, no matter that they have resettled permanently in Canada, had children, established their families in the community, they cannot travel back to even visit for one last time a dying loved one without risking the loss of their permanent status. These cessation provisions are wrong and unjust, and I hope that the members in this House will support this bill and bring forward just policies for refugees.
One, seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. The motion is deemed adopted.
First reading of this bill, première lecture de ce projet de loi.
When shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House. Mr. Davies, Vancouver Kingsway, seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act Respecting the Development of a National Renewable Energy Strategy. The motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honoured to rise today to introduce the National Renewable Energy Strategy Act. I thank my colleague from Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie for seconding this legislation and all his work to protect our environment. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has been clear that we must cut global greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030 and reach net zero by 2050 to avert catastrophic global climate change. The time for action is now. That means implementing solutions for clean energy and transitioning away from fossil fuels. While we do this, we must ensure that workers are not left behind. Jobs in Canada's clean energy sector are projected to grow by nearly 50% by 2030, and the industry's GDP contribution is on track to reach $100 billion by the end of this decade. This legislation would accelerate our transition to a clean energy future by requiring that the Minister of Natural Resources develop and implement a national strategy to ensure 100% of electricity generated in Canada comes from renewable energy sources by 2030. I call on all parliamentarians to support this vital initiative for our country and for our planet.
Davies, Vancouver Kingsway, seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. This motion is deemed adopted. When shall the bill be read? Sorry about that. When shall the bill be read a second time at the next sitting of the House? Mr. Johns, seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Marine Liability Act, National Strategy Respecting Pollution Caused by Shipping Container Spills. This motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for Courtenay-Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce a bill today that would amend the Marine Liability Act to require the development and implementation of a national strategy to address pollution caused by shipping container spills. In 2016, when 35 shipping containers fell from the Henge in Seattle into the ocean off of the coast of Vancouver Island, the government didn't have an emergency response plan in place or resources that were available to rapidly respond. In 2021, when 109 shipping containers fell from the Zim Kingston into the ocean, again off the coast of Vancouver Island, the government still didn't have an emergency response plan or proper equipment to respond. And if a spill were to happen today, the government, again, would not be prepared to respond. So volunteers have been cleaning debris off our shores for years, following shipping containers, finding items like refrigerators, urinal mats and inflatable toys, lost containers with styrofoam, plastic items and toxic chemicals that continue to pollute our marine ecosystems. And with climate change making extreme weather events more common, it's essential that Canada has a strategy in place to prevent shipping container spills and to respond rapidly and effectively when they happen. This bill seeks to begin that work before the next disaster happens. I'm thankful to my colleague, the MP for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie, for seconding this bill and for his ongoing work to build a cleaner, more sustainable future. And I hope all members will support this very important bill. Thank you.
Mr. John, seconded by Mr. Boulris, moves that the bill be now read a first time and be printed. This motion is deemed adopted.
First reading of this bill, première lecture de ce projet de loi.
When shall the bill be read a second time? At the next sitting of the House.
First reading of Senate public bills.
Motion.
Motions.
The honourable member for Courtenay-Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, I'm rising regarding the establishment of a national strategy on brain injuries in Bill C-206. And there has been discussions between parties, and I'm hoping, if you seek it, that we're looking for agreement to adopt the following motion by unanimous consent, that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, Bill C-206...
There doesn't seem to be unanimous consent. Motions, motion, présentation de pétitions.
Presenting petitions.
Okay. Well, let's start with the honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to present a petition today regarding recommendation 430 of the House of Commons Finance Committee, removing the advancement of religion as a recognized charitable purpose under the Income Tax Act. Petitioners recognize that religious charities in Canada provide vital services to society, including food banks, care for seniors, newcomer support, etc. Freedom of religion and belief in fundamental rights are fundamental rights in Canada, protected by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and singling out or excluding faith-based charities from the charitable sector based on religious belief undermines the diversity and pluralism foundation of Canadian society. So the undersigned are asking the government to reject recommendations 420 and 430 of the House of Commons Finance Committee's pre-budget report, refrain from including these recommendations in the federal budget or any related legislation, and affirm the charitable status of faith-based organizations whose work flows from sincerely held beliefs and whose contributions serve the common good of Canada. Thank you.
Honourable petitions. The honourable member for Mission Mascui Abbotsford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to present a petition on behalf of my constituents who are alarmed about the increase in repeat violent offenders being released on bail. The petitioners have witnessed a sharp increase in car theft, gang violence, and drug-related deaths. Violent crime has increased by 50%. Violent gun crime has surged by 116%. In 2022, 256 Canadians were tragically killed by people out on bail thanks to liberal policies of catch and release policies under Bill C-75. Police officers are increasingly powerless to protect the public. The petitioners are calling on the Minister of Justice to urgently reform Canada's bail laws and restore safety on our streets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Oxford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's always an honour to rise on behalf of petitioners from Oxford County who are raising concerns about the Finance Committee's recommendation 430, which would strip charitable status potentially from our places of worship and from religious organizations. The petitioners are raising concerns, especially because these organizations and houses of worship do so much good work in our communities. They help with food banks. They help resettle newcomers to our country. They help with those that need support the most vulnerable. And they're calling on the government and all legislators to reject any attack on religious organizations and their ability to practice their faith openly, freely, to support Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Peace River.
Okay, so we've got 5 minutes before committee starts. I've put the link in chat. I will pin this to the top. And I'll put the link in chat one more time. So we're going to head over to committee. We're going to watch committee. Finally, pretty much the first committee that's actually having anything to do, because the other committees today and tomorrow are just selecting chairs, vice chairs, and doing rules. So this is the first time we're actually getting a minister to show up, and it's going to be Freeland. And the discussion is Bill C-5, but obviously as this is the first time a minister is attending a committee, they can talk about anything else besides C-5 pretty much. You know, it's going to be quite lenient. They will try to stay around C-5, but yeah. Anyway, we're going to call it here. So hop on over to that, guys. We're ending this stream here. The link's in chat. I'll put it one more time. And yeah, let's go watch. If you're just going to stick with us for question period, you don't want to come watch committee, question period's live again, same time tomorrow. Mark Carney will be in. It'll be a little bit more spicy. So, and we'll be doing committees again in the morning as well. We'll be doing 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for committees. So a bunch of streams tomorrow. But yeah, hop on over to the committee, guys.